We have a special guest today, Rob Skinner, senior sports dietitian at the USOPC. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. I know that our listeners are going to be happy to hear from you today.
No problem, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Rob and I actually give you a little bit of background. Rob and I have worked together for a few years. We went to Rio together. We went to the Olympics. He helped support the USA fencing team as well as many other teams there. He also got a chance to travel with USA Fencing and 2018 World Championships to Wuxi, China, where we worked closely together for that 10 days. So that's a little bit about Rob and I's relationship. We've been working together for a little bit of time. He's working with some of our Olympians right now on sports nutrition and their diets. Rob, can you give us a little bit about, I know you 20 years of experience in high performance sports nutrition. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I started my first 10 years of my career. I started in sports nutrition. I was the second sports dietitian hired in the NCAA specifically for college athletics at Georgia Tech, Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta. And so I started my career there, and I spent 10 years there working with all athletes from football to the Olympic sports. After about 10 years, I decided to move to another program and start another program. I went to University of Virginia, and I spent about 3 years in Charlottesville working with, again, a multitude of, as the first place I worked with wrestling, with Coach Steve Garland, and a multitude of Olympic sports, as well as the NCAA football and basketball, the revenue generating sports. And then I was recruited by a friend to go start a program of human performance with Naval Special Warfare, which is our Navy SEALs and Navy boat drivers down in Virginia Beach. And so I went down there to help him start the program, strength coaches, athletic trainers, dietitians, and human performance. And we did a lot of great stuff down there. I spent almost 4 years there, and then got a call from the Washington Redskins to potentially go be their sports dietitian. So I ended up going there, worked with them for a few years. And then in 2015, the dietitian who was in the Team 5 Acrobat Combat Sports Dietitian spot, she left. And I decided it was the only thing that I hadn't done in sports. And so I came here with the intention of, in 2015, going to the 2016 games, working a year, going to the 2016 games, and now I've been here almost 5 years now. So it's been a good time.
That's amazing. Amazing track record of work over the years. I'm sure you've been in a lot of situations working with the military, developing in that program, seeing high performance athletes on different ends of the field. I just really appreciate you taking some time out, because I think the athletes are going to want to hear some of the tips that you have for us in this challenging time. I know that everybody's sitting at home and we're, shelter in place, and athletes are being taken out of sport, out of training, out of their normal routine. And that goes with, everything in life, work, training, sleep, nutrition, everything. So it's taking a toll, and I want to jump right into it. After you gave us your little bit of background, looking at going forward with asking the athletes and looking at some trends that athletes are seeing, I want you to just paint a picture of what you're seeing across the United States of athletes, of common trends, of struggles that athletes are having right now.
Well, I think one of the things is the reduction of activity. Obviously, we have athletes that practice sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Whether it's skills practice or strength and conditioning, multiple skills practices a day. So the reduction in activity is rough, and compound that with you staying inside or social isolation or distancing or whatever you want to call it, not being around other people. And then the 5 hours of Zoom phone calls a day or whatever you've got going on for your job. It's really, to me, and I know you talked to our sports site Kieran Cogan last week, but to me, it's the unknown. It really is the unknown. When are we going to get back? And what can I do right now to prep myself to get back? These athletes, you and I know you've worked for years with USA Fencing, but your athletes, the athletes you work with, are at the tip top of the sphere of their game. And I know USA Fencing has multiple levels from youth all the way up, but the athletes we're going to world championships with are at the tip, and they want to stay sharp. They do not want to be dull just because of some unforeseen instance. And so I think that's the struggle they're going through, along with, for nutrition-wise, the struggles they're going through are, am I eating enough? Am I eating too much? Where do I find my food? If I can't find my favorite X, what do I do then? You know, and those are the things that me, and I have two contractors, Taylor Maggio and Nicole Alai, who are working with me to get information out to the athletes is, hey, look, if you can't find salmon, you got to go with another fish. If you can't find fish, you got to go with chicken. If you can't find chicken, you got to go with, you do the best with what you have where you're at is the key. It's not always, this isn't an optimal situation. So your concept of I'm going to eat optimally is off. That you can eat well. I want you to eat well, and I want you to fuel correctly. However, it potentially is not going to be optimal depending on where you live in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that some of our listeners never taken sports nutrition into their game yet. And like you said, those Olympians that are at the top of the spearhead that are just, you know, that close from winning a championship or winning a medal. There's a big disparity, but I think that those Olympians are definitely having this on their mind. And those beginners and those athletes that haven't really brought in sports nutrition into their realm, I think that this is in a time of self-isolation or shelter in place. It's a perfect time for people to consider these options and to explore, and examine what options are actually out there. I want to go ahead, Rob.
Absolutely. With the challenge comes an opportunity, and the opportunity could be, if you've never experimented with looking at your meal plan and figuring out what you need to fuel yourself, this may be the right opportunity to do that. On the flip side of that, it's like we were talking about on a call earlier today. If you want to keep your immune system up, and everybody does right now, then you've got to eat well and you've got to sleep well. And those things are going to help your immune function be at its peak. And right now, everybody wants their immune function. So there's no secret to it as much as it is doing that. And we used to say this in special operations, is you do the common things uncommonly well. That's what makes you special.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. One of the biggest challenges I'm seeing is I'm not used to cooking for myself at home every day. I'm used to being on the road, traveling. So, meal planning, wasting food. That was my biggest fault. I was, I went to the store. I was like, man, I got to get stuff for home. I'm going to be at home for a month, and I wasted a lot of food. Any advice on just those 2 tips before we dive into the rest?
Yeah, I think for 2 things for shopping. One is try to make a list of what you want. And I know you're not used to meal planning. Now, there are a lot of things on Instagram and on the internet where you can look at. And we have an Instagram account we'll talk about later, but there's a lot of things out there coming from a lot of great universities and a lot of great sports dietitians with just quality information on how to do this. So I don't want to be the definitive source. However, you should try to look at, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, here's what I plan on having at minimum for dinner, right? Breakfast can be fairly easy. Some people just do a yogurt and a granola, or some people do a couple of eggs and a piece of bread, whatever, toast or whatever. Lunch is fairly easy. You don't normally eat 3-course meal for lunch, right? So don't start now while you're in your house. So the biggest thing is, do you have what you need for breakfast? Do you have what you need for lunch? And then planning out your dinner so that you go pick the items that you want. And then again, or that you need, and not overbuy. And then obviously, if you're a single person, and if you're one person and you buy a pack of 4 chicken breasts, that you want to put 2 in the freezer and take 2 and have them for the next 2 days. And because we really don't want to leave food out for 4 days at a time, right? So
right.
You can do the meal prep and mass cook and keep it in the fridge. But I'd say 3 to 4 days is about the max that I would want you to do that. I don't want you doing 7 days or 14 days at a time and then going in there eating that. It's going to be bad. So that's the one thing. And then the second thing, as far as when you go to the store and you're going and looking for boneless, skinless chicken breast and it's not there, you're going to have to adapt. Okay, you have to adapt and be flexible and say, okay, no chicken breast, I'll go with chicken thighs. No chicken thighs, I'll go with, and just keep going down the list of what's acceptable to you, what you will eat, and then what's available. Okay. And remember, this is not the time to be so picky that you just don't eat. Like that's the worst thing you can do for immune function is not feed yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've noticed my appetite significantly decreasing over the last 4 or 5 weeks that I've been in this at-home shelter situation, and that it's difficult to try to feed that appetite and change the foods and have variety and things like that. But trying to keep in the snacking. But I want to give our listeners right now your top 5. So Rob, I truly feel like there's no time like the present to consider some self-education and some things that are self-evaluating into their meal prep, meal planning. And I want to have you give your top 5 tips on sports nutritional considerations during this time at home.
Yeah, no problem. So number 1 is hydration. This is a time when we're probably not all hanging out or carrying our water bottles with us, but you still have to maintain hydration. Hydration, it helps get rid of all the bad things in your body. It flushes your system. You need to keep the hydration going. So 2 to 3 liters a day is the norm for people. If you're exercising or or you're in a part of the country that's warm, not Colorado, and you're getting a sweat on, then you've got to have more fluid. But remember that hydration is very important, and we forget it. Once your thirst mechanism kicks on, you're about 2% underhydrated already. So if you're thirsty, and I guarantee as I'm saying this, people are grabbing water bottles right now because just saying, are you thirsty, will make you compulsory drink some fluid. So remember, if you're thirsty, you're probably underhydrated already. That's number 1. If you're sweating, you're definitely on. Okay? If you're thirsty and you're sweating, you're definitely underhydrated. That's number 1. Number 2 for me is fruit and veg. And I know you hear dietitians say this all the time. You got to eat fruit and veg. You got to eat fruit and veg. But right now, more than ever, fruit and veg is super important. If you can't find fresh, you go to frozen. If you can't find frozen, you go to canned. And when you get those fruit and veg home, those fresh fruit and veg home, remember you have to wash it. It doesn't matter if you eat the peel or you don't eat the peel like a banana or an orange. You need to wash them. Other people have touched them, and right now we're worried about that. So wash them. You don't have to wash them with a disinfectant or Lysol or anything. You just wash them with water and then let them dry them and put them in your refrigerator, your fruit bowl or whatever, and you're good to eat them. But remember, that's where we're going to get our vitamins from. That's where we're going to get our phytonutrients from. That's where we get this out of just the power. You hear of superfoods all the time. There's no coincidence that most of these superfoods, which I don't believe in the term, but most of the superfoods you hear from are fruit and veg. They really are. All fruits and veg are really superfoods. So that's number 2. Number 3 is let's look at carbohydrate consumption. And I'm not advocating a ketogenic or a low carb diet or meal plan for anybody, especially athletes. However, carbohydrates are the primary source of fuel during exercise. If you have reduced your exercise, you need to reduce your starchy carbohydrates. That's the simple plan for that. So quantity, quality, and timing. Your quantity has to go down. Your quality can stay high. Great starches like sweet potatoes and rice and pasta are great as long as we're using that fuel. And if you're not using that fuel every day, there's no reason to go refuel your tank. So you've got to reduce that depending on your activity level or adjust to your activity level. 4th is lean protein. Again, go with the whole concept of the less legs, the better. You go fish, chicken, poultry, then you go up to red meat, pork, beef, lamb, whatever. But I would say again, at this time, do the best you can. If you can't find whole cuts like chicken thighs or chicken breasts or whatever, go get deli meat. Get low sodium preferably, but if you have to get deli meat, get deli meat. You need a protein source. Now there's loads of vegetable protein sources too, like beans, legumes, nuts. You could use those as an alternative, and we want a variety of protein sources, but those lean protein sources are important. Again, your immune function, all those immunoglobulins, that globulin is protein. So let's not forget that. Let's make sure we get it. Now, it does make you feel satisfied and full. So with the appetite issue that you were talking about, and a lot of people are having that, a lot of athletes are reporting, I'm just not hungry, then maybe you go with a liquid protein product, as long as it's NSF certified, or, you know, you check it out. But you go with a product so that you can, because if you're not hungry, a lot of times not eating just keeps suppressing your appetite. So it's almost like priming a pump. You need to have a little bit of something, like a little shake or something like that, to stimulate the appetite so that you're hungry later on. And as long as you're getting calories, you know, quality calories, you're good. And then lastly, please remember that you're off your schedule. This is completely unprecedented. And sometimes you're going to feel bored. And when we feel bored, sometimes we eat. And eating out of boredom is probably one of the things we could really prevent, but it's so easily done. If you have a product, let's say it's like chips or something, and it's sitting out and you're bored, you reach for the chips, right? It gives you that satisfaction, a crunch, you know, and you're doing something. You're feeding your face. And what we want to do is, hey, look, we're going to set up scheduled times for these snacks so that you're not over consuming. Because right now, like I said, quality, quantity, and timing, that's the three basic principles of sports nutrition. And if your quality is good, right, we got to work on quantity. And right now, with the adjustment of your activity level, your quantity is probably a little bit lower than normal. I did get an email the other day, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I got an email the other day from a fencer who wants to create some lean gains during this time, which is great. You have to fuel appropriately and you have to exercise appropriately to create gains. So as long as muscular gains is what she's talking about. So as long as you have the capability to do that, workout where you're at. If you don't have the capability and you're doing just body weight stuff and things like that, you may have to reduce your intake just a little bit. But
wow.
Boredom is the big key.
I love it. That's 5. Let's go over them really quickly. Increase your hydration. Increase your fruits and vegetables. Make sure they're washed. Cheap, delicious, easy foods and that are not high in starches. You want to decrease your starches. Do the best with what you have when you're shopping. If you can't find specific types of protein, lean protein, or those things, you know, make adjustments. Make sure you're getting either plant-based or animal proteins. Make sure they're lean if possible. And the last one is stay busy. Make sure you have a schedule and try not to snack because boredom will get you. Those are some pretty good tips.
You did better than I did.
No. You did a good job. I summarized it really well. I wanted to make sure those 5 tips came across really well. I think that they're amazing. I think some of the athletes can take these and use these tomorrow, to be honest with you, when they're thinking about how they're going to be feeding and fueling themselves tomorrow. So I think that that's amazing. Rob, do you have any resources? I know that you guys put some stuff out on Team USA. Can you give us those real quick?
Yeah. Well, so there is a Team USA Nutrition. That's all the sports dietitians get together and put content on. And then for Acrobat and Combat, we have a Team 5 or Team V, is a Team V Sports Performance. And we put content up every day. We have Trivia Tuesdays. We have Recipe Fridays. We put up stuff every single day for the athletes. You can also message us through there. And if we have a handout we've already created and it's something you're looking for, we have no problem sharing that. That's not an issue with anybody. And then we also have teamusa.com, and you can look at the nutrition on teamusa.com. And we have a lot of handouts that are already up there and downloadable. So
excellent. And you said the Team V is Instagram.
Yes, yeah, Instagram, Team V Sports Performance. It's Instagram.
Team V Sports Performance Instagram. There you go. Thank you, Rob, so much. You heard it from Rob Skinner. 5 key tips for sports nutrition. Thank you so much, Rob, for having you. I hope
Jeremy.
that we can have you back again. I think that
No
we'll
problem.
have some good response from our listeners. So I can't wait to see how this actually plays out. Thank you again.
All right.
And we'll touch base. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.